Hello R peeps, welcome to the first video in a series of tutorials teaching you how to make your own R packages from scratch. This is just an introductory video to get you started, and the follow-up videos will include more detail regarding writing your own functions, adding vignettes to your package, in other words, sort of help files with code that runs in the script itself, and more information regarding embedding data into your package. So let's go straight into R. So what you want to do is just go to File, New Project, a new directory, R package. Give it a name. Let's just call this Tat1, and you select your directory. I'll just leave it in Documents, Create Project, and it will set up your package with a function just as an example, and you'll have all the relevant folders and files that you need here on the right. So what I recommend doing first before you start writing any functions is to install two packages that will help with the writing of sort of your documentation for each function. The first one is called Roxygen 2, and you'll just go to Packages and Install and start typing it in here, and you'll see it come up here. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to install it again. But once you've downloaded this one, then you also need one called devtools. So install this one as well. I will just call them up here, and devtools. Okay, once you've done that, you need to go to build, go to configure build tools, and just select generate documentation with Roxygen. And then when this window comes up, I just select vignettes and install and restart. So make sure that everything is selected. Okay, now once you're at this stage, you're good to go to start writing your first function. So this hello is just a default thing that comes up. So I just delete that, and I'll rename this. So the example that we can do now is just a power function. So let's call this pow, and I just want to delete the original hello in here because we don't want that anymore. We'll just call this pow. Let's just save this. So what you want to do now is, when you start writing a function, you start off with a preamble to tell, well, it's just this information about what the function does, what its inputs are, what its output is. You can include an example as well. So I've got this already written out as a framework. I will include this in the video description, and you can just copy paste. So the preamble starts, every line starts with this hash and apostrophe. It's just the syntax that is required. So what you do here is you just change the title to whatever it is. So function that, let's say here, returns a power. Description, write what it does. The more detail you give, the better, because users of your package and your functions aren't necessarily as clued up as you are about your ideas. So really put in the effort to really explain what everything does. And The parameter arguments are basically the inputs into your functions. You can have as many as you want, and you can call them whatever you want. I've just called it x and y, but it could be anything. It could be Ben, it could be whatever you want. I'm just keeping things simple. So let's say our function will take in a base number and an exponent. So let's say x is the base number. So we'll say this is the base number. The y would be the exponent. And in your return, you say what the function returns, or as I've written here, what it spits out. So you'll say returns the result of a base number raised to an exponent. An example, we'll fill this one in later. And this last line, the export, that has to be in there in order for this function to be accessible to the user. So when they've installed your package, you need this in order for this particular function to show up as an option. So now once you've done this, you can start writing your actual function below, and now you no longer need these hash symbols. So let's say we call our function pow, and you start off calling up this function option, and in these brackets you put in what arguments the function requires to run. So it will obviously need an x value, which we've said now is the base number, and it will need a y value, which is the exponent. You then open up your curly braces, and in here will be the actual the nuts and bolts of the function. So let's create something called answer, and we'll say that this is going to be x raised to the power y, and then we want the output to be the results, right? So we need to say return, and in there we'll say answer. I could just as easily, instead of creating a thing called answer, I could have just said a return, and I could have put x to the power y in here. But I like creating names for things so that it can be referred to later on if the function becomes more complex. So that's pretty much all there is. Now you've got this, so you just need to save and have a look. If I go into manual, so it'll come up. So once you've got something going, you go to build and you go to install and restart, and then it will save the function in the menu. See, it's replaced that initial hello thing. So then once you've installed and restarted, you check, and it will run through this package and make sure that everything is fine. And it will probably bring up an error because I haven't made a small modification in the description file, the warning. So it's asking about a license. So go to your description file here, and you need to fill out information here as well. The package name, the title, so you would change this accordingly. Say a title, it could be just power function or whatever you want. Put your name here, put your email address in, give some more information and description. Leave everything else as is, but change the license. So I just put in here GPL3, but have a look online at the different licenses that you can choose from, and just make sure you are choosing the correct one for your needs. Once you've done this, I'll just do the install and restart again, and the check, and it should run through now without any errors. It's usually quite quick. So you know it's all good when you've got 0 errors, 0 warnings, it's all green. So now, before I mean, this is the basic idea, but a quick, interesting little thing. If you want to put in an error message, to sort of, you want to catch errors as early as possible, because the user can easily put the wrong input in, and instead of the whole thing crashing, it's good to just pop up warning messages and then it stops at that point in the code. So in this example, let's say you want to prevent the user from putting in a negative base number. Before it actually calculates the answer, you can put in an if statement, and then you can say, alright, x, because x is the base number, if x is less than 0, you use a command called stop, brackets, and you put in a message here, and then we'll say enter a positive base number. So it takes in the 2 arguments. Before it even starts calculating anything, it checks these conditions, and if it picks up that x is negative, it will pop out this message and it won't do anything else. It will just stop there. So let's just save this, install and restart. I won't bother with a check again, but what I do want to show you is if the user has called up your library and they want to start using a function. Let's say they now want to use your power function. You can see it comes up as an option here, and you'll see that in the description of this function, it started telling you, you see what it does. It's reading that in from the preamble, from your description here. So yeah, just to show you that you need to give a lot of information. So power, let's say I want to raise 2 to the power 2. This should output a 4, and there you go. Let's say now I put in a negative number, negative 1 to the power 2. It gives an error message and it will pop up whatever you typed in the stop command. So that's a really nice thing to keep in mind. And lastly, if you want to create more functions, some people do it all in one file, so they'll do it all in this one.r file. But I think it's better to create different files for each function. So to do this, you'll just go to File, New File, R Script, and you'll save this, Save As, and you need to make sure that it is saving in your package folder within the R folder. So you can see you've already got your power function there. Let's say I want to create another one here. Let's just call this temperature. You save, and if you check in this manual, I first need to just install and restart. Now if I check in manual, both should be there, unless it needs to do the check first. Or maybe it needs the preamble. Anyway, they are both functions. Oh yes, because the manual does require your preamble information, which I haven't put in yet. But they're both in the R folder. So that is pretty much all you need to do. Don't forget to obviously include, let's just actually put this in. This would obviously be a completely different function. Let's just save it. And yeah, that is pretty much the rundown for the first, just the introductory steps. I hope this video helped. I'll put text in the video description for the useful, for the Roxygen, just to remind you, and the DevTools packages that you need to pre-install, and the preamble information. And if there are any queries or comments, please let me know, and I will follow this up with a new video soon. Alright, that's me, over and out.